week and aimed at flexibility. But employees, unions across Karnataka are saying this is a very, very slippery slope. Normalizing 12-hour days paves the way for job cuts, quietly kills any idea of work-life balance, no matter how much we discuss it.
Does that even exist in India? Like, that's a debate we should really be having. But let's talk about how the ripple effect has been felt. Now, there's a conversation happening in Karnataka. Parallelly, there's one happening in Mumbai, where Bollywood has entered the chat. It started with Deepika Padukone actually exiting the movie directed by Vanga. He's a very well-known actor, director. He's given some great hits at a time when Bollywood is not really performing well. But she had the spine to walk out of it, saying she's not getting enough time with her newborn child. Then there were other mothers in Bollywood who jumped into the conversation. Janelia D'Souza, she responded not with outrage but perspective. She said that she too is married to an alcoholic, a workaholic, beg your pardon, one which is of a different high altogether. But that doesn't make it ideal. We need to normalize healthy work hours, not glorify hustle, is what she wrote. But why are we only angry when corporate workers are asked to work harder? What about cops who work round the clock? We all remember the picture of that woman constable who was at the New Delhi railway station carrying her child in a baby carrier the night of the stampede. Not an ideal situation where a child, leave alone a toddler, a newborn, should be. What about nurses? What about security guards, daily wage workers who've never had the luxury of 9 to 5? How exactly do we bring all these people into the conversation? One that India must have. The time is now.
Because when we were discussing this, we thought that we often leave out certain groups from this discussion. Yeah. Why do we do that when these jobs are actually often the ones that are the jobs saving lives? Well, to tell us a little bit more, to break this down with us, we thought we'd invite on someone who's expressed her thoughts on this. Actor Madhu Shah joins us this morning. Good morning, Madhu. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Madhu, first, just if you could walk us through your own experiences over the last few decades. We're talking about one particular industry and whether that industry has an issue with giving people a proper sense of work-life balance. Mothers, of course, but address it generally too before one as a mother. Is this a constant issue? What did you find?
Back in the day when I was a young person working, this was never the conversation, because in my line of work, we only work, it was called, today we are doing one shift work. So which was 9 to 6. And then if there was night shooting involved, if there was more than one shift required, it was told to us. So we never felt that we are being asked to work long hours. This conversation changed when television became very prominent, because that's when the talk came out that if actors are made to work 18 hours and 20 hours and artists are fainting on the sets. This is when the conversation came into our line of business, where everyone started saying in their contract that I will only work for 8 hours. But where 18 hours was being worked, when artists started asking for 8 hours regular shift like 9 to 6, then the debate or the conversation or the negotiation started. So I know I have agreed to do 10-hour shift back in the day, because it was not possible to do 8 hours when people were working for 16 hours. So I always looked at it as a negotiation. You ask for what you need, you know what you prioritize, and you ask, and there's a negotiation. The other party, the producers, accept it or not. Then the choice remains with you whether you want to be a part of that project or not. So I always look at it as your personal choice, personal priority, and a negotiation. So that is the way I have handled this. I never thought it was, more of a conversation than that. So recently we are talking about an artist having left a project. It's absolutely her personal prerogative and her choice. She's a new mother and she decided she needs to work less and need more time. Back in the day, I actually gave up a career to be at home to look after my children.
It is, first, can I just say it is so lovely to have you on the program and get your perspective. And you called yourself back in the day when you were young. I'm sorry to say you look exactly the same. Women are aging and how, and it's so nice to sort of hear from your perspective. And you're absolutely right that back in the day it was a choice, whether your career or your family. I think that conversation has moved beyond that, right? We're in a time when women are saying, hold on, I can have both and I should have both. The system should work in a way that I get to have and I'm not forced to make a choice. That's exactly what perhaps Deepika Padukone has done, and many others we hope will follow. The question here is slightly different. the question is often of choice as well. Some people might choose to work long hours. So, are we looking at a system, perhaps a creative group of people saying that we still need a system to work? How? There are 9 to 5 work hours, etc. Well, there's a conversation on, overtime is never really given in any creative film, media included. But are we saying that we should move into an environment where everybody is given a choice and then you choose whether or not you're working? It should be left to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's your choice. The system is presented to you what is acceptable and what is not, and it is your personal choice to be a part of it or not. And I also feel now that the society is moved, like I'm talking back in the day, 90s was a very different time and a different conversation. Now, women had to either work or stay home. Now we are not having that conversation. Women want to have both, because when you're having a family, it's a family unit. Just as a man can have both, the conversation comes to that. A father can also go out to work, a mother can also go out to work. So I think the family unit needs to come together, because I'm back working and I have a very supportive family. Of course, right now my children are much older and they are doing their own thing, they have their own life. But even when they were in school, I had a support system of in-laws and a husband who understood my need to step out of the house. So the conversation went like this when he said, you do whatever you need to do, but make sure the house is happy, the children are happy. So when we work together with an understanding, with an intention behind, then we all come together to make it work. So there were many things that I did not do. Like I would not travel out of Bombay for days on end, leaving my home behind, children behind. And then my husband and my in-laws supported me when I was coming home late in the evening, when I couldn't be home at 6 or 7 and I became 9 or 10 to return home. They were all okay. So I had a system. So we need a system in place at home and a supportive system even at work, where they understand that this artist needs to be a part of this film. We need her in the film and let's see how to accommodate. But if this doesn't work out, then it is the choice where you are a part of a project or not. So it in the end comes to a human understanding, a shift in the society, as well as personal choice and priority. And it's a negotiation.
So your point is no hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
It needs to be gentler. When we need to accommodate for a human being, we need to build gentle structures. Madhu, that's a beautiful point. Let's
Because the society has moved. We are having those lady-oriented, girl-oriented, women-oriented conversation, where when this conversation is happening, then everyone needs to be a part of it and how they can play their part at home and outside the home, at workplace and at home. It is not a single person crusade. I don't want to have conflict in my house to be my own person. I need to walk along. I need the support. So if we are talking about a woman's place at work and at home, I think the shift needs to be in the whole psyche of the society.
So let me ask Madhu, and I want to ask Sonal this too, because you both, as two people who have been mothers, and I do want to, in a little while we should also talk about this question of this conversation being right now about women like us, but we need to include and make this conversation broader. And how do we do that? We'll take in just a second. But Madhu and Sonal, I want to ask both of you in terms of concrete changes in workplaces, changes that need to come on right now to the current existing laws. For example, the amount of leave we have right after someone's given birth. For example, the way in which we expect a woman to rejoin. In the year when she's just joined right back into work, should she have to first join for a few hours, then more hours? What are the structures we want to see?
Like I said, if the shift happens in the thoughts of everybody, then everybody accommodates. You need to understand how, because a new mother, it's not just about giving birth and just stepping out to work. It's about the way she goes through her emotions, body, hormones, everything. So firstly, we need to understand how ready is the body, how ready is the mother to be back at work. But everybody has a need to come back. Everybody needs to work. So we need to accommodate that and make those correct laws and rules that accommodate, like maybe OT, maybe she can come a little bit late. Maybe there are ways to make sure that she reaches home sooner or gets to the workplace sooner and not be a part of the whole other travel system. I do not know. I have not been a part of this law creating system, but definitely, if you need the person and the person needs to be out, we should make sure how to make it happen for her.
I think there are two things here, and I'm very glad you asked this question because only two things, if they can happen today, I think a lot change will happen. One, not just about fixing work hours of women, but fixing work hours of men. We need, if we want active participation at home, men have to be able to give more time at home. So this work hour debate is not just about women. They need to step up more. Madhu just said, and very innocently in perhaps a conversation that happened in a home, that I was told that, as long as everybody at home is happy, you do you. If somebody was to say that to the woman of today, they would say, what do you mean? Is it only my job to keep the home happy? What about your responsibility? We are both
No,
making a
because
house.
as a mother, as a nurturer.
I know what I'm saying. I totally get what you're saying, but I'm saying the generational shift has come there. And that is the conversation we need. And the thing.
But that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
When we are making the shift, it is not about creating war.
Correct.
A woman must not just say that she has to fight for herself. If a partner saying, our children, it's not your children, our children should not be disturbed or their peace, then there is definitely a role.
Yeah.
So because a child misses the mother at a certain age, what my partner said is not that it's your responsibility. See, that's where is the thinking. Every time, if we make every debate into a man-woman conversation.
No, I totally get it. Madhu, what I'm trying to say is that if the man of the house, or perhaps the father in this case, were able to take equal flexible hours, it's only then that they can contribute.
Yes.
It's only then that they can come and share the load. So work hour debate is not a gender debate. It is a decency debate. And the other thing, I think what we really need, I think the other thing that we all really need is have more women in positions of power. That's the only way systemic change will come in. That is the only way.
Systemic changes happens when there's a change in the thought process collectively. So exactly when you said that when a man takes part in taking care of the family, then those shifts will happen automatically without a conflict and without a dispute. So the emotions are all in place. If you need to keep your family happy, the man and the woman, it's not the gender, but the people responsible, the primary caretakers, need to know their place and responsibility in the family and play their part accordingly.
We were talking a little while earlier about mindset change, and I just wonder, the fact that this discussion comes up when we're talking about white-collar workers, the fact that, police officers regularly do double shifts, and the shift itself,
doctors,
their first shift is 12 hours, so this entire conversation would be beyond them. That also, in a way, is a mindset shift that we need, right, as Indians, that this conversation always sticks to just a certain group of people.
See, exactly. When a lady becomes a doctor, when we have a doctor as a lady, the family behind her knows exactly what is the nature of the job. Suppose she's sitting on a family dinner table and there's a call that she needs to go. Everybody understands, will step up and play the house role for her, so that she can go at some other, in the night hours on an emergency call. So that is a kind of understanding. A doctor cannot be a doctor if the family doesn't understand. If the family gets upset that the doctor is absent from a family engagement. So exactly the way the nature of the job demands that. A cop is doing a night shift. Whether it's a lady cop or a man cop, when she's doing a night shift, the other people at home have to support. I know a lot of women who do night shifts in various jobs, and I ask them, what do you do? They go home at 8 o'clock and they sleep till 12 or 2 in the afternoon. So there are other people, maybe the in-laws, maybe I don't know what her support system is, but there's definitely a system in place that helps her cope with these kind of hours. So it's not about one person, it's about where the environment and everybody understands the nature of the job. If you are a cop, you cannot be doing just morning hours. You will be doing different timings.
I love the passion that Madhu has brought into the discussion and how it speaks volumes, because there is a clear shift in the conversation from then to now, and we really hope that it will only get more progressive with times to come. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And good luck with everything that you're going to do next.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so that was about the work hour debate, just a glimpse over there. But there is another big story that is unfolding. The wait is finally over, we really hope so this time, where the Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla is on the cusp of making history as he prepares to blast off to an international space station aboard the Axiom Mission 4. This mission is a joint venture, remember, between NASA, SpaceX and ISRO, making a significant milestone for India's presence in space exploration. If successful, Shubhanshu Shukla will become India's the second Indian to reach orbit after the legendary Rakesh Sharma, where he flew aboard the T-11 in 1984. What's more is that he'll be the first Indian to set foot on the ISS, the International Space Station, that NASA has shared the latest updates as well on the mission, confirming that the revised schedule is actually now in place.
All right. So what does that mean? That means that in just a few hours, you can see that countdown we're going to have on our screens all day. In just a few hours, Axiom 4's mission will be a go. And according to NASA's official statement, it is scheduled, so the time we're talking about is 12:01 p.m. IST today. The mission has had quite the adventurous journey. Remember, it was set to launch on May 29th. It faced multiple delays due to technical repairs on the spacecraft and the launch pad, as well obviously as unfavorable weather conditions. The most recent delay pushed the mission to June 8th. Then you had June 11th, and finally to June 22nd. Let's get ready to witness history in the making.
Hopefully now.
Yeah.
Hopefully this time around. Joining us next is Shrishti Chaudhary. Shrishti is with the news18.com. Hi, good morning, Shrishti. You've been tracking this for a while and waiting like everybody, like all of us at the edge of our seats to saying kab hoga finally. Shrishti also spoke earlier with the family of Shubhanshu. But what exactly is the update? And I read this really fascinating report that the technical glitch, it was earlier a weather pattern, then a technical glitch, which apparently ISRO helped identify, and the team of the team of experts that have gone from India helped identify. Tell us more about what actually went wrong.
Good morning, Toya. Good morning, Sonal. So yes, I mean, finally the wait is over. We all are really waiting now for the mission to lift off successfully and reach the International Space Station. So like Sonal, you talked about this, there was a glitch which, kind of delayed the mission earlier. So there were two main issues. First, we had some issues with the Falcon 9 rocket of SpaceX. There was a liquid oxygen leak, but that was fixed by SpaceX within a few days. The second problem was happening at the International Space Station in one of the modules, which is the Svesta module, which is usually operated by the Russian Space Agency. So they detected some leakage there, which was fixed, but then NASA wanted to take its own time to ensure that every functional component of ISS is working fine, so that when the astronauts reach there, their spacecraft is able to dock into the ISS, and they can stay at the ISS for the long duration mission. So remember, it's a 14-day mission, so everything has to be accurately aligned. And NASA has been highlighting, and ISRO is, especially because it's our second space flight in last 40 years. So ISRO has clearly stated that safety is our priority, and that is what NASA has also been emphasizing. So as of now, both these issues have been resolved. And as we can see on the screens as well, the countdown has begun. And let's hope the liftoff actually happens at 12 noon as stated.
Shrishti, if an audience member is watching this right now and they are like, ye Axiom hai kya cheez? Sun bahut rahe hain Axiom over the last few days, but what is it? How would you best explain what it is to our audiences, and also just explain, because in the same breath we talk of NASA, right now we're talking of ISRO. These are all different national space organizations. How does Axiom tie in? Just tell us.
Yes, so definitely. I think all of us know that cosmonaut Rakesh Sharma has been the only Indian who traveled to space, but he did not, travel aboard an Indian spacecraft. That was through a Russian space agency. That was in 1984. So this mission comes exactly 40 years after that. Now this is the first private space collaboration space flight that ISRO has collaborated with. So Axiom Space is a US-based private space agency which has been organizing commercial space programs. It has already carried out 3 crew missions to the International Space Station. Now it collaborates with NASA. They have a commercial crew program where NASA and Axiom Space together organize these space flights, and this is a commercial investment. So Indian Space Research Organization has spent about roughly 550 crore in this mission. Now why have we done that? because we have our own space flight, that is Gaganyaan, which is scheduled to take off around 2027. Now the idea is that one of our astronauts actually get trained for a space flight. He gets to know how a space flight actually works, what it is like to be at the International Space Station. So out of the 4 astronaut designates for Gaganyaan, we selected Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla. So he's going to be the main pilot serving on this mission. So he'll get a lot of experience, which will help him when our Gaganyaan actually takes off. So it's a private space flight collaboration. Now the various agencies involved are, of course, Axiom Space, which is leading this mission. Then we have NASA, because we are docking to the International Space Station, so where NASA is a lead partner. And third is, of course, SpaceX, because they're providing us the rocket, which is Falcon 9. And ISRO, because it has one of our astronauts. But also to remember that there are 3 other astronauts, 3 other crew members along with him. So 2 of them are from the European Space Agency, one from Poland and Hungary, and the other is the commander, Peggy Whitson, who is a former NASA astronaut.
Right. So we've seen now so much about them. We've talked earlier as well, Shrishti, with you about what is it that they'll be doing over these 14 days. Hopefully they'll be back in 14 days. We know what happened with the last one, and that got extended. So we're hoping all of that happens. But before I let you go, talk to us a little bit about the much talked about Shubhanshu Shukla mindset. His own team members are going gaga over how cool like a cucumber he is, and he's like a duck. There's something happening beneath, but what you see on the surface is so cool, and why that is so important in the mindset, in the personality of somebody going to the space.
Definitely, Sonal. So we are really proud of our armed forces, and all these 4 astronauts who were selected for Gaganyaan are test pilots in the Indian Air Force.
Yeah.
So that actually speaks volumes about the kind of mindset they actually have, and which which prioritizes them over others when it comes to becoming an astronaut. We spoke to Shukla's sister Shuchi, and she was talking about how he's usually very calm. When he sets his mind to something, he gets it done. And that's what his mother also highlighted. And see, to become an astronaut, you require that kind of a mindset where you can patiently navigate through any kind of challenge that comes through. Because when you are in space, no matter how trained you are, there are a lot of uncertainties involved. So that is definitely there. And second, he being a test pilot gives him an advantage, because he has, actually flown several aircrafts. He knows how to kind of navigate those situations. So definitely, and I think one thing that scientists, all of them have been highlighting, is that all the 4 crew members have developed such good camaraderie.
Yes.
Because they have been training for almost an year. And of course, when the mission got delayed, that wait and the anxiousness, so they have grown to
and they've been in
handle
quarantine alone for a while to ensure that there's no infection. Everybody's hale and hearty, and also they'll be like in a little bubble, little universe of their own. So it's great that this is happening. And like the countdown says on our screens, just about 3 hours 39 minutes left for that. You can obviously watch all that coverage right here on the channel as well.
All right, Shrishti, thank you. We're going to move on now from this to something slightly different. Our colleague Anand Narasimhan actually sat down to speak with the retired NASA astronaut Clayton Anderson.
Now, they discussed the Axiom mission, and also Clayton described what Earth looks like from thousands of kilometers up in space. Here's an excerpt.
Clayton, hi, thank you very much for speaking with us here at CNN News 18. We are on the cusp of the Axiom 4 launch. This mission has seen multiple delays. Can you just talk us through what goes on through the minds of the astronaut when this happens, this period of waiting, anxiety, technical checks, delays? I'm sure you would have encountered it too.
I did. I think most astronauts do. Delays are part of the game. Delays are unfortunate, but they're oftentimes necessary, because we always want to be safe with what we're doing, right? We do not want to do anything that jeopardizes the crew, the vehicle, and the mission success. So I found my time at the Cape to be okay. Oftentimes it was boring, right? The Kennedy Space Center is a huge place. There's not much to do except to exercise, to wander the grounds, to perhaps run a little bit, exercise. I know that's what the crew does. I do not know the degree of technical review that they're doing. I know that they're planning on 60 experiments or something like that during their short time in the space station. And so it's possible that they're making notes, that they're reviewing their previous notes, that maybe even trainers are there to help refresh them on what they're going to do. That helps to pass the time. And of course, they always take the opportunity to speak with family and friends. They're relatively limited being in quarantine as to how close or how intimate they can be with their family members. So that's always kind of a strain. At least it was for me, because I had very young kids at the time, and the inability to reach out and hug them and touch them and kiss them and all that good stuff made it kind of difficult. But they're only going to be up for a couple weeks, so I was scheduled to be up for 5 months, so it was a little different.
We have an Indian astronaut, Shubhanshu Shukla, who's part of the Axiom 4 team. So what will be your advice to him, and what should people here in India expect from him, or when he's part of a mission? It's a big step for us, because from our space program, India is also hoping to put their own space mission, a manned space mission in the near future. So this is perhaps one of the first steps towards that.
Well, I think he wouldn't be there if he wasn't qualified. I'm sure he's an incredible human being. I look forward to meeting him someday. I've not met him yet. I would tell him to just relax. I would tell him to trust the training, trust the process, learn from Peggy Whitson. She's been there many, many, many times. She understands what's going on. I think she sees the big picture. And I would encourage him to look at that big picture, to not get so absorbed into the details that he forgets to step back and view it, because he has a role that no one in India has ever had. He is the person. He is the pilot of the SpaceX Crew Dragon. He is quote unquote second in command in that vehicle. But people are looking to him, and you're looking to expand your space program. And so this is really cool time for him. This is a time for him to absorb as much as he can, to learn as much as he can, to be forthcoming and transparent to everybody at ISRO, because it's important that he share the good and the bad. But I think he's very excited. I can almost guarantee he's hugely excited, right? And the ability to see space for the first time off of the planet will be mesmerizing to him, especially now. There's a space station cupola. The SpaceX Dragon has windows. It's just going to be a great experience for him. So I would say relax, see the big picture, and step back and just enjoy it.
How did you feel when it was the first time for you, and then it was the next time, and then you spent time on that space station? What's the experience? How is it different?
Well, for me, my first trip, I wasn't scheduled to launch with STS-117 originally. I was supposed to go with STS-118 in August of 2007, and they moved me up to June of 2007. So I was with a crew that I hadn't trained with very much. I felt very much an outsider. A quick example, the crew went for a crew run at the Kennedy Space Center. They all got up and they went for a run, but they didn't invite me. And I was like, I got up that day and I walked around crew quarters and I go, where the hell is everybody? And they were all out running on a crew run, but they didn't take the whole crew. So that won't happen to any of these guys. But I think that for me, I was nervous. In the astronaut office in America, there's a lot of pressure to not make a mistake, right? You never want to be the person that screws something up. And so that's why you have to just relax, and you have to trust your training. You have to consider yourself prepared, and that when you get into that situation, all that training will kick in, and you'll be ready, and you'll do the right thing. And I think that's very much what will happen to these guys. So as you get ready to do it, there's lots going on. It's hard to absorb everything that happens on your first launch day, but it's going to be an incredible day for all of them, I think.
All right, so India waiting with anxiousness on when that Axiom takeoff happens. For the moment, we're going to slip into a break. Coming up on the other side, a very exciting chat. For the first time in 177-year history of the AMA, there is now an Indian doctor at the helm of affairs. AMA is a cornerstone of medical science in America, and we'll sit down with him. Dr. Bobby coming up on the other side.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to see the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that Iran is completely demolished?
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going.
Welcome back. You're with the Breakfast Club, and it's time now to bring in a very special guest on the program. But let's tell you a little bit about him first. The American Medical Association, the AMA, regarded as a cornerstone of US healthcare policy and reform, has for the first time in its 177 years of history elevated a leader of Indian heritage to its highest office. Dr. Bobby Mukamala, an Indian American orthopedologist, or an ENT as we know it as, has been sworn in as the 180th president of the AMA. But he comes with a very interesting background. It's not just symbolism.
So let's tell you about it. He's the son of immigrant physicians. He has had, especially in the last few years, a remarkable personal journey. Dr. Mukamala was diagnosed in November 2024 with an 8-centimeter temporal lobe brain tumor. He actually publicly disclosed it just 6 months before his inauguration into this position. What that means is that after undergoing a successful surgery in December, followed by treatment that lasted several months, he's now here today. And his experience as a patient has profoundly shaped his advocacy on healthcare equity and access. All of this and more got us to invite him as our person of interest today. We're so excited to have him here with us. Let's talk to him about this and a lot more. Dr. Bobby, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on The Breakfast Club. Doctor, we could first ask you, what do you wish your election will bring about? Medical aspirants in India who might be watching this morning, what do you want them to know?
Yes, I think that, what's wonderful is, my parents came to the U.S., to Flint, Michigan, and they practiced medicine for 50 years. And yet now I'm leading not just the practice of medicine, but overall the healthcare in general in the United States. And I think that that's something that we're responsible for. When we look at the metrics in all of our countries about what is happening with the health, I would say that there's significant risk to the health of our countries, just from things like access to healthy food, access to a place to get healthy exercise. Those are the kind of things that are a challenge, not just in the U.S., but also in other countries like India. As I've witnessed when I come to visit my parents who have now retired and live in Andhra Pradesh, I can see that there's a tendency to enjoy the developing lifestyle, but that comes with a healthcare consequence. And I think that's of significant importance, both in both my country of heritage and the country where I was born and live now. And so that's what I'm hoping for, is to basically make people aware, because what we do in the physician's office is part of overall healthcare.
Correct.
But it starts with everything from a place to exercise, a place to get healthy food, a safe environment to live in. Those are all the things that also contribute to healthcare. So I'm excited to talk about those things as well.
Right, I'm so glad you are, because a good doctor is the one who ensures nobody comes to his clinic. And it's lovely that that mindset is actually at the helm of affairs as well. But let's talk about a couple of other issues as well. You can't not talk about AI in today's time and age, especially in medicine. There is one section of doctors who talk about how it's going to unburden you. A lot of data, a lot of analysis can be done by AI. But others saying, what about replacing them altogether? What's your take?
Yeah, not so much the latter. I think that, the American Medical Association, where I'm now president, we don't refer to it as artificial intelligence. We call it augmented intelligence. It's still AI, but the A stands for augmented, because I think that will help us to take care of patients, right? And I think about, one example that I give is I live in Flint, Michigan, and we live near a lake. And when somebody comes into my office, if it's the last patient on a Friday, the last patient I'll see in the week, oftentimes, if I see an ear infection, I'll just put that patient on the drop that I use the most for that. But AI has a wonderful way of being able to remind me that this person lives on a lake. In today's news, that lake happens to have an outbreak of E. coli bacteria, therefore I should use this medicine instead. And that's a wonderful way to use it, right? But it all depends on the safety of the data in AI, right? AI is an evolving technology, and sometimes it doesn't get it right. And so the American Medical Association has plenty of policy about when we use AI, how should it be used in a way that it augments patient care and is not at risk. And I think within the physician community, both in the US and around the world, there's excitement about AI and there's also fear about AI. And so I don't think that it will be something that replaces physicians, but it should augment our ability to take care of patients. But that means there's going to be regulation around it as well, right? So when do we use it? When do we trust it? Awareness that it's being used, right? So if we work for a hospital system and AI gets incorporated and we're not aware of that, and it puts out some sort of conclusion, that's something that we have to assess the risk of that, right? And who's responsible for that risk. So it's something that we very much are excited about, but also very much looking at, okay, how is this going to happen that improves patient care and doesn't have any sort of downside? And so that's very much a passion and something that we're very much working on at the American Medical Association.
Dr. Bobby, speaking of downsides, there was a recent MIT study. It looked at how people were using LLMs like ChatGPT when they were writing essays, and it found that if you'd used one extensively, you actually didn't remember very much of the essay you'd written. Studies like that have this take on AI that show maybe it isn't the best. What's your take on them?
Yeah, so I think that AI is something that we have to be aware of. And when I think about my generation, I don't think that this is something that's going to shrink my brain while I'm alive because I'm using AI. But it is something that's a potential risk in generations down the road. And we, as a professional organization, the American Medical Association, are not just thinking about this generation of physicians, but the next several decades of physicians. And so that's something that we need to be aware of. But I always think using it in the theme of augmented intelligence, it doesn't replace my brain tissue, right? This is something that augments my brain tissue. It takes me from forgetting something because we're human, right? It's something that we are affected by the other stress in our life, whether that's seeing more patients than we can, whether it's dealing with insurance companies, which we have to do a lot in the US, things like prior authorization, things like physician burnout, right? That's something that affects the way that my brain functions. And a computer, an AI, has the potential to fill that gap, right?
Yeah.
Not replace my brain, but supplement my brain, right? And inform me of things that I might not have thought of, augment my intelligence.
Yeah, that's nicely put. Dr. Bobby, let's move on to perhaps what has been the biggest change and shift in medicine that we've seen in the past several decades. I'm talking about the anti-obesity drugs. It's taken the US market by storm. It has now entered India as well. In fact, we're talking on a day when the second drug maker has actually released another anti-obesity drug. I wanted to understand your take on it. There is a division of who really needs it, and again, a debate over who can really afford it. Is it really reaching the right people? How exactly do you plan to take this forward in your position at AMA?
Yeah, I'd definitely be cautious because this is relatively new, right? It's not like penicillin, right? Which is clearly there's generations, decades of support of treating infectious disease with something like that. This is something that I always, and it's more my personality, is that I don't jump into the newest thing that we have, whether that's surgical equipment that I use to do some ear surgery, or whether that's a medicine to be able to reduce obesity. These are things that it's an evolving intelligence. But the current intelligence, we have approval of that at the national level with the Food and Drug Association. And so these are things that there is science to support it. So then the question becomes, who's going to get it when it is this expensive? And that's, I think, a major thing that we work on within medicine is what do we do about the cost of medicine? Because if this wasn't as costly, this is something that, just like antibiotics when they come out or when they become generic, it's something that a lot more people would use.
Yeah.
But when it costs this amount of money, we have to be aware of what is the impact of this on the economics of healthcare, and let's make sure that the people who need it most get it first, right? And so those are the kind of things that we're very much aware of. It sounds like everywhere in the world because of the wonder of this medicine, but also the cost of this medicine and the evolving science of this medicine. So all of these things are things that need our attention.
Doctor, we can just tickle your brain almost with other ethical questions that arise from medical practice. There is CRISPR, and it essentially allows parents to edit the embryo. So when you've got a baby inside the embryo, you can edit its genes. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so we have a whole portion of the American Medical Association that we call CJA, the Ethical and Judicial Affairs group, the council. And so these are things that there is science to be able to do these things that's evolving. But the question is, what are the ethics of that science? And so this is where people get together throughout the year to determine first, what are the ethics of this? Is this something that should be encouraged by the American Medical Association, practiced by the physicians in our country? What are the pros and cons of this? What are the ethics of things like this? And that's just as important as the technology. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it, right? And so, I think of it historically when we think about nuclear weapons, right? We can, but should we? Right? And so it's the same sort of philosophy that I think is critical to the evolution of science, right? We don't want science to be ahead of the ethics, where decades later we're thinking, you know what, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Right? And so that's what I think we need to spend just as much time on the ethics and looking when we should do it, how we should do it, if we should do it. Just because we can doesn't mean we should.
That's right. Since we have you, and we're talking in the age of social media, we're talking to the Instagram generation as well. What are your talks on, your thoughts really on TikTok doctors, on Instagram doctors, on people who've become health influencers?
I would say that they're definitely the minority in the physician population, right? This is a single percent number as opposed to the 90%, right? When I think about COVID-19 in the US, immediately 90% of doctors were vaccinated as soon as they could be, right? And so I question that, but the question is, how do you approach that? Because what I find interesting about social media and the things that you described, you can have a brilliant scientist, right? PhD, the most educated person in the world on a particular issue. But depending on their screen personality, they may or may not have a following, right? The people may or may not believe them. They may have 2,000 hits. And then you take somebody who has the charisma of somebody in Bollywood, right? And their science becomes something that's embraced by millions of people, right? And they may have certain letters after their name that convey a degree, but it's not something based on the science. And so you have somebody with charisma and kind of going up the wrong tree as it relates to how to deal with some disease. And then you have somebody with no charisma that has the best information in the world, and yet this person is popular. And I think that's something that social media does that it probably shouldn't, and we need a way to find the charismatic person with the scientific knowledge that we should support.
Good propaganda, essentially. Is there anyone that you follow, anyone you look up to?
Well, in the U.S., I have a college classmate of mine that happens to be at the CNN USA that is a very charismatic neurosurgeon. And he did I had my own neurosurgical problem. I had a brain tumor 6 months ago that got operated on. And he's a neurosurgeon colleague of mine that we had a wonderful interview with each other to talk about what is it like to be a physician going through something that's a life-threatening brain cancer. His name is Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Yes, so he's a college classmate of mine and medical school classmate of mine. And he and I had a wonderful podcast, in my experience and in my opinion, about healthcare from a physician's perspective when they become a patient. Because that's something that, as president of the American Medical Association, we all have an immense experience taking care of patients. But then all of a sudden, 6 months before becoming president of the AMA, to have a life-threatening brain tumor that was operated on just 6 months before my inauguration, that has to be, my parents, I went to Catholic school my whole life, and my parents took me to Bala Vihar on the weekends to study Hinduism. So I considered myself a pleasantly confused human being when it comes to religious input. But now I have to think that somebody up there put me through this before I took this position in my inauguration to make me a better advocate for healthcare in this country, from the physician perspective, obviously, but now from a patient perspective.
It's a miracle indeed, and so glad, and thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Bobby. But before we let you go, we have to understand the other colorful side of you as well. You're born and brought up in America, but we do hear that you acted in a Kannada movie. Could you spill some tea on that? How was that experience?
was in Mysore to act in a movie, which was interesting. It was definitely out of my comfort zone. And after 9 days of shooting the movie, I couldn't wait to go home and start cleaning out people's earwax because that was my comfort zone. Yeah, I came back in March for 9 days to shoot this movie in Mysore. I had a small role on the spectrum of movie star to movie extra. I was maybe a couple steps up from extra, and I had 3 or 4 scenes, but the first one was amazing. It was set in the 1850s, and it's about the British starting to take away the guns from people in India so that they could begin to control the country. This is the resistance of a village from having those guns taken away.
All right, Doctor, thank you. This has been the loveliest chat. You've sort of just really opened our minds up to so many different controversies and how to think through them. So thank you for joining us.
And this
thank you
entire
for giving us that.
conversation, plus with some extra questions that we did ask him, are on TVC Extra. So you can log into the cnnnews18.com and the website and our YouTube channel to get a hold of that entire conversation. On that note, we are going to slip into a break. Come right back for all the market coverage on the other side.
A future where technology.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to be the agreement with the new dawn in the Middle East, thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve? What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East.